Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a video about how to best store CDs. Now obviously there's a lot of ways you can go about this. I'm just going to go through the ways that I do it. I've got a few ways that I do it that might be a little bit unique or different to you. Hopefully it'll give you some ideas. We all know about the bookshelf style like what I've got behind me. These are custom ones that I had built. Not everybody can afford to do that. And of course you can get regular standard bookcase style ones off of Amazon or IKEA, Wayfair, Target, whatever. There's all these kind of places that are selling those sort of things. So those are good. But I'm going to show you some different ways and we're going to dive into that here in just a moment. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help. And of course, if you turn on notifications, you'll stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with a video about the best ways to store CDs. So let's get started. So this one here is actually the first bookcase style I ever had made. This one I did back in college. It's just plywood. It's not very high-end or anything like that, but it holds 800 CDs and still my favorite, so I keep it. And then if we walk out here into the music room, you guys saw this behind me. These are the custom bookcases that as an architect I designed and had built when I purchased this house. I've also got two walk-in closets like these. And if we come inside here, you're going to see a bunch of these white boxes that I want to talk about here. And you're also going to see a bunch of these style boxes, and I'm going to talk to you about those. Okay, so when you have 12,000 CDs, and this holds about 4,500 out here, obviously there has to be other ways to store things, and that's really what we're here to talk about. So I showed you those white boxes, and I also showed you those other thin, rectangular, beige boxes, and I want to talk to you about the white one. So I've got one here, and these boxes here are actually ones that are larger file type boxes that I cut down in order to hold 90 CDs in. And that's what you're seeing here in this. So they perfectly hold 90 CDs, 3 rows of 30, and all the spines are visible on it, which to me is the main thing here and why I like this method of it. I have made a full video about how to purchase these style boxes, which I get from Staples, but you can get them from anywhere. They are a standard type box, and I go into more detail in that video. You can cut it down to the perfect height here that will hold the CDs. But there's a lot of different style boxes, and I guess that the main point is if you can find a box that works for you, that holds them tight and secure so they don't jostle around and all that sort of stuff, it's a very good way to store them. And when they've got the lift top lids like these that go right on it and you pull that off, it makes it very easy and a quick way to access this stuff when you can't have it all out on display. Not all of us have huge houses. I only have enough room to get 4,500 of my 12,000 collection out on display. So I have to find other ways of storing things. And that's one of them. I also showed you these boxes that were in there. Each of these holds 30. So 3 of these are 90, like the white box, which are nice, and I always kind of like to keep that in mind. These are boxes that still to this day are the way they ship CDs to record stores. So you can just ask your local record store. That's actually how I got every one of these. When they get them in, oftentimes they don't keep them all. They break them down and have to recycle. And you can ask them. They have flaps, lid that closes over it like you see on the underside. I've just cut that off so they're exposed. Now this happens to be my Alice Cooper collection. And so that's one of the ways that when I can't have the stuff out here, I keep all of one artist together in a box like this. And this happens to be all my Alice Cooper together. So that's just another great way. And so I have found actually going to the record stores and inquiring with them, sometimes you can get these boxes, you can get other boxes. There's ones that vinyl is shipped in, holds it much better than a standard box. So as opposed to just going to the store and buying random boxes that aren't made for these things, a lot of times you can get them from your local record store. And I found that that has been a great thing as well. And one more thing I wanted to touch on regarding that is sometimes when these places are going out of business, and that's sad, they actually sell the racks that hold everything, and you can always pick up something like that from them and have it be custom made for CDs, for music, from a record store, and it may also hold really great memories. I've got one myself from a record store I worked at. Take a look at this. So here's that rack from a previous music store that I worked in, Peaches Records and Tapes. It was a southern record store chain, and this one here was one of their CD racks. And when they were going out of business, I got one of these things here. Just had great memories. I haven't really filled it up because it's down in my basement, so I don't really want to keep a lot of stuff down here. These are all duplicates, but I do have a cool rack like this that is made specifically for CDs, and it came from a record store. And like I said, if one's going out of business or something, you can always ask. It never hurts, and maybe they will give you one of their racks. Okay, so you've seen the two main ways that I store stuff when it's not out on bookcase style display. But of course there's other ways. You know, there's plastic bins and things like this that a lot of places will sell. They've got these clamp-on lids that come off easily. What I find in this usually is that CD, I like to have my spine up, and that is too tall for this. Whereas I can put it down like this and it's just perfect, and I can fit a number of rows in here, and that's great. And some of you guys like the plastic bins. You just feel maybe that they're a little more protected than the cardboard, and I get that. The lids snap onto it. So those do exist, but I've never come across any that are really tight, because these have a slight, turn this around so you can see, a slight angle to it so that you can put one inside the other and they will stack, which means this has movement inside here. Even if it's done this way, you still have that. So that's always kind of been my issue, and why I went with the cardboard, which I'm going to hold up here again, because you can see how tight from side to side they fit perfectly, and there's no movement in there. And I just would prefer my stuff to be completely vertical and taut like that. But if you go to a lot of different stores, you can find plastic bins that stack. Those are other ways to do it. And then I've got some other ones just around the house that I'll show you. Okay, so while not in something particularly like this bookcase that you're seeing here, if you've got corners like these, they make a great place to stack CDs, because you can go very high with them, and they've got something on, you know, to protect it on the side where they're not going to be knocked over in just a regular stack. So I'll find corners like this throughout my house where I've got music and stuff, and you can stack it for a long time, keep it there before filing it away in one of those type of storage boxes or filing it onto shelves. I'll basically find anywhere to store my music, and so I do have bookcases that are in use with books, but if there's small books and they're set back far enough, and I've got that corner that I was talking to you about before, you can always use it to stack CDs in, and it doesn't really obscure the books. So especially if you've got a stereo downstairs next to it and you want some of your music, that's always a great place too. All right, and finally, just some housekeeping tips, best ways to store CDs, and really this goes for any music. But it's always best to store the things upright with the spine as opposed to storing them flat like this. And I know I did show you some of those methods, and while jewel cases, it's okay that it can take the weight, some of the cardboard packaging, digipacks and stuff like that, like this Alice Cooper one, can take all that weight, and it can crease the spine, so you have to be careful. So I would say it is always best to do upright, side by side like that whenever possible with anything. And so I never let those ones where I stack vertically get too tall. And you know, you could probably get 30 or 40 and be okay, but beyond that, be aware. Other things, it's always best to be stored in an air-conditioned environment, somewhere that is conditioned, both heating and cooling, so whether in the winter months or summer months. The heating and cooling removes the moisture from the air, so when there's no conditioning of any kind, the paper is going to absorb that moisture, and it's just not good for the overall life of the CD. And again, this goes for records because it can cause warping and other stuff as well. So for putting things down in basements, if it is conditioned, you get air conditioning and heating down there, then you're okay. Sometimes you want to have a dehumidification system that will remove the moisture from the air, because anything that is below grade like that generally has more moisture content in the air than rooms and things that are above grade. And so if your system, your house system that has AC, doesn't provide dehumidification, D meaning it's removing the moisture from it, there's things that you can buy, stick in different corners. They will absorb the moisture. I'm going to show you a picture in just a second of it. But those things will remove it. You can pick them up. You have to dump the water and replace them and so forth. But if you're putting any of your music and you're storing any of your music in a place that isn't conditioned, make sure to be doing something that is dehumidifying, meaning removing the moisture. Here, take a picture of some of these ones you can purchase. Okay, and last but not least, I always say leave them in their cases. You know, when you get these huge collections to the size like I have it at 12,000 CDs, some people ask or think it'd be better to take them all out of the jewel cases and have them in just thin plastic sleeves. But of course, that leads to corners being bent, damaged, stuff like that. It's just not as secure as it is in the case itself. So in my opinion, always leave them in the case. When you're done playing with it, put the CD back. Don't just throw the CD down because it'll scratch it if it's just left out and stacked on its own. So always keep your music in the cases. When possible, always keep it upright on a shelf. Of course, we don't always have that as an option, so hopefully some of these other ways of storing your music helps or gives you some ideas. When you're going to the store the next time, look at bins, look at things, and think about all of these things that we talked about here, and perhaps you'll find a new way to store your music. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.